help, so it's not a very strong defense. There are also products you can buy that will block reverse engineering, make APK tool not work, and they can get pretty expensive. And by the way, Dasho is an obfuscator that actually works. This is what you have now, and this is what all the variable names have turned into this garbage. See, that would irritate me. I might not get interested enough to write this talk if I had to wade through all that garbage all the time. So that's a reasonable obfuscator, but it costs 2,000 bucks. And there's another product called ArcSan, which won't even talk to me because I'm not going to buy it. So it must be even more expensive. And they claim it has multiple layers of validation and verification and checks so that you can't decompile this stuff at all, and it recognizes all the decompiling tools and breaks them all. And I imagine that's probably true. They won't give me a free sample to test it. But you can totally buy products to prevent this, and I'm wondering how these people stay in business since nobody seems to care. But apparently some of them do care. Some of them actually patch it. So it seems to me that there's a slow awakening that there's actually a problem here. Anyway, so that's as far as this last one, lack of binary protections. So then I started noticing other stuff to look at. And one of them is some old work from CERT. In 2014, CERT actually built a special gadget. It's called the Tapioca, I think, using a Raspberry Pi or something. It was sort of like a Wi-Fi pineapple. It was a man-in-the-middle attack that would then put a whole bunch of invalid certs to every website you went to so they could see if any of the Android apps would accept invalid certificates. And they had all kinds of errors, expired, wrong host name, invalid CA, and so on. And they found 23,000 vulnerable apps. And they notified all the app designers 7 months ago, and they published the entire list in a spreadsheet on the internet. So I was looking at this thing saying, this is interesting. I wonder how many of these people actually patched their stuff. So I started looking through, and I made a page here, and this started to get me in trouble. So this is repeating previous CERT. You see, what I said to myself here is I do not need to do responsible disclosure. CERT already did responsible disclosure 7 months ago, and if they don't listen to CERT, they're not going to listen to me. So these guys are fair game. That was my hypothesis. So here's PixArt, Astro File Manager. This is stuff with like 100 million downloads. So I had this spreadsheet of 23,000 things to test. First, I started testing the ones that had the most downloads because they looked important, like OkCupid and Safeway and such. And these are susceptible to SSL man-in-the-middle attacks. And then we'll get down to the mobile ones. But this is one that's so extreme they actually fixed it. It was Foxit Mobile PDF Reader because they got embarrassed. But let me show you how this one works. This one is slightly more complicated. Not very much more complicated because I don't do anything complicated. So you have to use a proxy. So it's, I don't know my address anymore because I'm using a different Wi-Fi. Let's find out what my address is. Okay, it is 192.168.1.131. Okay. So I will send everything through 192, 168, 131, and port 8080. All right. And I'm running burp here, and burp is listening on all addresses, including that one, 131. So I have a man in the middle. Now, if you want to use burp correctly, you have to install the PortSwigger root certificate in your device so it will be trusted. And if you don't know what you're doing, you install burp incorrectly, and you get these warnings every time you try to browse to a secure site. But that's what I want. So now I have put a man-in-the-middle attack that does not have a valid CA, so no secure connections can be made from this device right now. So if any of these apps make secure connections, they're lying. And of course, they do. So here's the history. Here's it attempting to connect to HTTPS resources, and these aren't getting anywhere because it couldn't get through. Let's clear the old stuff and play some games here. So let's see. We did SunTrust and Trade King. Here's PixArt. I don't know what they do, but whatever it is, they do it badly. Here's HTTPS connections. Here's HTTP post connections going through, carrying some data about my device. So they're making these HTTPS connections. Now the port 443 is open and you can make the connection, but the certificate is no good, and they obviously just don't even check it. So I can find a login button someplace. Here we are, login, and I can put in LayerOne fool, and I trust you here, and sign in, and it'll be right down here someplace. Maybe that one. Someplace there. Here's some posts. There we are. I trust you, LayerOne fool. You know, so it appears as using what they think is HTTPS, but they just commented out the HTTPS validation, probably just so they could test it, and then just never put it back in. I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't know exactly what leads to this, but it is something a lot of them do. And you know, I'm surprised that Google doesn't block you from the store for stuff like this. I think Apple would. I mean, they could just run a test. It could be in Bouncer, and what do I know? Maybe I'm just underestimating the difficulty of this, but it seems to me like they could be in Bouncer if you accept invalid certificates, kick you out of the store. And you know what's kind of fun here? Suppose you try logging in with one of these other services. See, Google Plus, I can't get in. Now that's because PixArt is not as stupid as they could be. When you click on these external links, they appear to be launching an external browser, which is probably the default browser, and see, the default browser is smart enough not to let this happen. We are going to see that is not always the case. Anyway, so I'm able to steal PixArt credentials. Then I got InstaChat, which is something related to Instagram, whatever that is. I don't use it, I just mock it. And here they are wanting me to log in, so I'm test, user, LayerOne, password, LayerOne. I log in, don't bother remembering it, that wouldn't be secure. And so there it is, test user 1, password 1, stolen by the man-in-the-middle attack. So they're just throwing the passwords on the ground like they don't care, and here's OkCupid. And see, OkCupid used to be vulnerable, and they patched it. They're one of the services that actually paid attention, so I appreciate that. They now warn you. So that's not bad. I suppose if I trust the network, it'll fall for it. I haven't tried that one. And then let's try the Safeway app. You can do stuff on your Android phone at Safeway. I'm not quite sure what it is, but you can go to My Card and get to the personalized section where you sign in as Safeway user at AOL.com. My dog's name, sign in, and there it goes, just spraying that stuff all over the world. And then it went to the server, and the server noticed that's no good, which is evil. It should have told me, you know, that I can't get there from here because something's wrong with your network connection. So that's the game there. PixArt, InstaChat. No, these two are 100 million each. OkCupid actually fixed it. Safeway's only 1 million, but you know, and there are a lot of them, like more than a dozen on that list there that I tested. And so then, that was pretty entertaining. And I said, well, you know, the other thing that occurred to me is you can take the spreadsheet that came from CERT and you can sort them by category. And there's a category called medical. And it seems to me like some of those guys might be covered by HIPAA. And I've had pretty good luck in the past at getting attention by reporting HIPAA violations, especially if you go right to the feds, which I haven't done with these yet, but I have gotten far enough to get some attention. So I just took the same. Now, the reason why anybody ever cares about this is because Dan Gooden at Ars Technica wrote this stuff up. So there's actually an Ars Technica article about this one, which had the first part of these things where he talked about the fact that these clowns haven't patched their thing even 7 months after being told by HIPAA. And what's surprising to me is that Snap Secure was a security product, which had this problem, and they did in fact fix it pretty quickly, because that's pretty humiliating. And the Foxit mobile PDF reader had social networking options. Let me just bring up this here, because this is pretty fun. There were 2 or 3 things that had this kind of stuff. If you're determined enough, you can compromise other people's services too. So, let's see if I can get this to go to the right place. With my somewhat slow Wi-Fi, let's try Foxit. Okay. And the next occurrence of Foxit. Okay, so Foxit mobile PDF reader, I can harvest Foxit credentials here. But then Foxit can connect to cloud readers. And here, let me just open a local copy of this page since the internet doesn't work. That's the logical solution. It will take me a moment to remember how to find it. Here's this one and this one. There we go. And I should be able to run local copies of all these things. There, all right. And now, it's this one. And now this stuff should move. There's Foxit. Okay, so here's the Foxit reader, 1 million downloads, and see, Foxit can connect to all these services to get the PDFs you want to read. And when you do that, it does not go and launch the default browser like it should, or use the system routines. It uses their custom junk they wrote that doesn't work. So this looks like a browser, but they wrote some version of a browser that ignores certificates. So I can steal your Dropbox password, and your Box password, and your Microsoft password as you connect to the Microsoft cloud, and so on. They expose all these other passwords by connecting them through their own insecure custom code. So when I put that out on Twitter, and they actually patched that one pretty fast. Anyway, let me go back to my list here. So the medical apps are the next thing that I wanted to look at, because it seemed to me like these guys violate HIPAA. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I went and looked at HIPAA, and it says you are supposed to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of medical information. If you are a covered provider, and there's various categories of covered providers, but pharmacies are included, and so are doctors. So there's something here called GenieMD, and this thing is a product you use to manage your health, and you enter your medications and your vitamins into this thing, sign in using email, and I can steal the credentials. And what GenieMD claims is that the patient is not a covered entity. The patient is allowed to use something insecure to store their stuff. And therefore, this is not a violation of HIPAA. And I looked at the third category of covered entities, and I thought maybe they're included, but I don't really know. But I said, you know, why do you break SSL anyway? But I got no answer beyond that. They sort of a lawyer's answer that they're not eligible. Go away and shut up. Anyway, but the other one was entertaining was, let me go back to my slides here. All right. So here's, all right. Notice this one called Lowest Med. Now this is the spreadsheet from CERT from 7 months ago. Here's the medical category, and there's something here called Lowest Med Corporate. So I went and looked at Lowest Med Corporate. Here's GenieMD, and here's Lowest Med Corporate. Now GenieMD responded immediately when I put this on Twitter, we are not covered by HIPAA, we do not need any security, go away. I said, well, that's an interesting position to take. Lowest Med contacted the college. I sent them an email telling them about this, and they ignored that and called the president of the college and demanded that they said they were going to sue the college if I didn't take that page down. And then I said, pass the information on to me, and I replied in writing saying, why don't you put whatever you have to say in writing, not on the phone, and then I'll run it past my lawyer, and we will take an appropriate response. And suddenly they got polite and said, well, you know, we think we're probably not covered by HIPAA because there's nothing personal in our product. And that might be true. Let's take a look at these guys. See, I cannot test these guys too thoroughly because without a valid credential, I can't see exactly what they do once you get inside. But let's remove this thing and go here. So here is Lowest Med. Now this is a corporate product that is used to buy medicines. And so here we are, username and password. My username is test user and test, I'm messing it up, but it's all right. Test password, all right. And there it goes, sending test user, test password up insecurely. So I do not know what's behind this. I assume a list of medicine you're buying, and I think there is a sort of disingenuous issue here about how I've only stolen the password, that's not medical information. I say, yes, what's behind that password? But anyway, I do understand the whole point of lawyers is to split hairs. Anyway, then there's GenieMD, which is more of the same, really. GenieMD is a product you use to keep track of your symptoms and so on. There's something called My GenieMD, which I think you can use to order medications, and that would make it covered by HIPAA, but maybe not. And anyway, to log in, looks like, yeah, I already have an account here. Let me just delete my old data. I tested it earlier, and I have to clean it after each test for this one. GenieMD, clear data. Okay, and now here's GenieMD, and we'll clear this old stuff. And now when I go to My GenieMD, I need to sign up. And I can sign up this way. There are terms of use, which, by the way, I don't need to see to agree to, which is entertaining. Okay, so user, okay, that'll work fine. All right, so I put in some stuff and sign up, and of course that is available to be stolen on the internet. And then it's going to ask me this stuff: blood type, gender, are you pregnant, zip code. You know, this is PII, but anyway, they're going to argue whether that's enough of a crime. And I don't know. They may slide on HIPAA, but I'm hoping they have some motivation to actually fix their junk. Anyway, so then I decided, I thought CERT caught them all with their automated process, but then I just tested some random apps and they were vulnerable. So I do not know how CERT missed them or if they added new vulnerable ones in the last 7 months. This might be the answer. But I started trying a lot of apps, new ones, and I found a lot of them vulnerable to this man-in-the-middle attack, and I contacted them saying I think they're violating HIPAA. And one of them really takes the cake. It's a Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, and the reason I can talk about them is these guys had the worst vulnerability, but they're the fastest to fix it. So they fixed it within 2 days, which was yesterday. So I was able to actually talk about it now. The rest of this stuff I'll have to wait like another month before I can talk about it. But they have 2 apps, Blue Connect Mobile and Student Blue Connect Mobile. And those things leak your Blue Cross credentials, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube credentials by not verifying their certificates. And so I told them, and they fixed it in 2 days, and now, as soon as you try, it just says the connection is not secure. They're really very nice. So the developer is really a hero here, responding quickly to a report. And the last thing, this turned out just right. You got 10 minutes, and I threw one thing at the end I thought you'd get a kick out of. I was trying to do insurance companies. And this insurance company called AIG did not have an app, but they had some weird thing called AIG Mobile Guard. So if you buy their insurance and you want it to protect your phone itself, you have to install this security product on your phone to protect it, which I guess lets it be remote wiped and remote found. And that product is fantastic. You notice how all I've been talking about is when I Trojan an app, I put the password in the log. Because that's so ridiculous, that proves that I'm able to destroy the app. So I wrote a Trojan for this one to put the password in the log, and then I looked, and the password was already in the log. So there it is. It already logged the password. Dude, I have this special app written to be insecure that my students do for homework. And I'm like, dude, I could just use your app. That's like the example. It comes pre-Trojaned. And so I contacted them. It also has local storage of all your data. It stores your security question, your security answer, and your PIN in plain text on the device. And so anyway, there are 4 versions of this thing. And I thought it was probably worth showing you. Yeah, I think there's 341. Good. I should have enough time to demonstrate this one. Let me it'll take a moment. Let me quit going through the proxy because it makes everything slow. And we're done with that part. Here's Mobile Rescue. Let me delete the old data for Mobile Rescue because it only gets to put in data when you first, good, the data's already gone, good. All right, so all I have to do is get rid of the proxy, which is here. Okay, so now I'm just connecting directly to the internet. Now let's get the log going by, which looks like it is going. All right, and I think the thing to search for this one to avoid getting a lot of junk is encode, okay? So I grep encode. Okay, so now you start this security product that protects your phone. Mobile Rescue, I've agreed to this, whatever it is. Activating the product. Yes. There we are. They made a PIN. But if I change the PIN, I changed the PIN to something real secure like that. And then I put in my mother's maiden name. And I hit next, and there we go. There's the PIN 1337. In case you didn't get it, there it is again. And now I'm going to put in more stuff, and it's going to log. So that's pretty entertaining. So I contacted them, and they said that they patched it, and they didn't patch it. They're just lying. They said it was their old products, and they have new products that are better, but I kind of doubt it. Anyway, let me see if I got anything else here. I think that's all I wanted to show you is those things all failing. Yeah, so you got any questions? I'm interested in hearing them. Yeah?
So to mitigate the key logging aspect of Trojaning, because that's all done on the app side. There's no way to do external verification. But for external verification of app validity, would it be possible to have a hook in the app store itself that you have to send and get a ticket back that is some kind of a check on the app integrity? Because the problem is that you're in a situation where I can't figure out how to actually solve this problem in a way that you can't Trojan yourself out of.
I agree with you, and I'm hoping somebody smarter than me will solve this problem. The only solutions I can think of are pretty weak, like obfuscating the code, validating the signature, but of course whatever validation you put in is code in the app. So it would be better to have some kind of cryptographic thing that can't be forged, or you send some kind of hash with encryption with a public key cryptography or something going to some trusted server. I imagine somebody could think of a good way to do that, but I don't think that's what people are doing to block it now.
It would have to be like in the Play Store. It would have to be pre-existing on the system.
Yeah, that would be good. And I agree. I would like to see some intelligent thought put in how to prevent this. But at the moment, nobody even cares. So, I mean, I'd be happy if they would just use the lame measures that are available now. And then if they were doing that, we could argue about how to make something better. Yeah. Any others? Yeah.
For the SSL fails, did you get any sense of what was kind of a common root cause? Was there right around CERT validation, not validating certs, not using the trust store?
I do not know exactly what they're doing wrong to create these SSL validation problems. And by the way, I should mention, in case I didn't, that the test I use is much less precise than the one CERT used. CERT tried all different kinds of errors. I just tried one error, untrusted CA. So they might not be verifying the name on the CERT, and I would not catch that. But still, I just used the easiest thing. And what it appears to me is just a lot of them have commented out all validation entirely and just left it that way because you can use it for years and the customers will not notice. Yeah.
Do you come across many apps that disregard the system proxy setting?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Quite a few I cannot test in this manner because they do bypass the proxy and make a direct HTTPS out. So that's another reason why the CERT test is better, because they put a real device in the middle so they have no chance to go past it. So I mean, I just did the easiest test and it's relatively sloppy, but it catches a lot of them. Yeah.
I don't know if it's still the case, but you had mentioned that using the default browser could solve a lot of this. I think Android's default browser doesn't do CRL checks. So if you got your hands on an old cert or key or whatever, I think you can still man in the middle with an expired certificate, and the app won't actually go out and check for that, even if it uses a default browser.
Oh, you mean it doesn't do a revocation?
Yeah, it won't actually check for revoked certificates. So
well, that's interesting because I know Chrome does, and Google had their special technique.
Chrome actually has a hard-coded list they're maintaining now, because that's a great idea.
And they didn't put it in Google's default browser.
Well, I don't think it's implemented because Chrome is separate than the default browser, and that may have changed in Lollipop, but I think before that they were not doing CRL checks. So.
Boy, I'm glad you told me. I did not know that. Yeah.
Can you talk a little more about your Python script that went through and iterated all the variables?
Yeah, it's really very simple. It looks at the start of every app, finds a number of local variables, increments it by one, and then inserts a standard thing that just says what the name of the module is, puts it in the log. And it's literally, you could do it with search and replace, like 3 times, but I just wrote a script so that it'll not break them too much. And anybody wants it, just email me. I can give it to you, but believe me, when you see it, you'll laugh. It's like 10 lines of Python. It's exactly what you would do if you wrote it. All right, I guess I better get out of here and make room for the next speaker. Well.
Hey Sam, how you doing?
Are you the next speaker?